is not such a problem, is it?
April,
Not April.
May, June, and July are not so problematic.
That brings us to August, not August.
September,
Not September. We can skip October and go straight to November, not November.
and finally December, not December.
And that's how you say them right. There you go then. Yes, since it's the end of the year, might as well start a fresh year knowing how to properly pronounce all of the year. All of the months of the year, right?
Well, that's very important. And so, folks, it's very, very important that you learn how to say it right. But because a lot of things have been happening in the country. And you know that the NDC issued a statement yesterday. And they're talking about marking today, the 7th of December 2021. But of course, for them, it's also because on the, during the 2020 elections. Now, the police indicate that 5 persons were killed as a result of some violence in some of the constituencies. The NDC indicates 8 persons were killed. I also seen, for instance, a story by the Ghana News Agency, GNA, published on the 19th of December, that actually goes and names, and provides names of these 8 persons who were killed, as a result of violence in the 2020 general elections. Lots of things have happened right after that, but the question really is, have we been able to, conclude investigations on these cases? What has happened? And the NDC has been raising some few questions. They've been talking about President Akufo-Addo. What have they been saying really about President Akufo-Addo? Yeah, they've been talking about the fact that they think that the president hasn't done enough when it comes to, encouraging the peace in the country. They think that President Akufo-Addo is a wannabe dictator.
That was a shocking one.
Yes, and they also talk about the death of Ahmed Swale. It's been 3 years. Nothing has happened. Investigations haven't uncovered anything when it comes to that particular situation.
They refer to the deceased as martyrs of the Fourth Republic. And then, of course, because they are politicians, they made some promises. So they are saying that they intend to, as at the earliest opportunity, seek justice for those who they believe are the martyrs of the Fourth Republic. And of course, they talk about how they have an unblemished record when it comes to peaceful elections. So yeah, there we go. The NDC, and of course, you'll be hearing more from this statement as the day goes by in the subsequent bulletins. But I think it is a fact that people were shot, people died during last year's election. I searched. I actually wanted to fact check, so I searched for a statement, a comment from the president about those who lost their lives. I didn't find one. I'm still searching, but I haven't found one.
And the statement also makes reference to the fact that the president has never, for once, acknowledged that his victory was secured over the lifeless bodies of his fellow citizens. It's also part of the NDC statement issued. But they also talk about happenings in Parliament currently where, they show the admiration for the 137 MPs on their side in the face of naked power play and threats. And this is contained in the statement. They say they have stood up to be counted. We honor them most especially for their forthright rejection of the e-levy.
Yeah. And talking about the forthright rejection of the e-levy, the finance minister has been speaking about it. He's talked about the implications that would have. And as part of the negotiations, they're also mindful of the implications that would have on the Ghanaian economy going forward. He's talked about the fact that, we have, in 2019, our tax to GDP 12.2%. By 2021, we're looking at 12.7%. That's if we meet our GDP target of 431 billion. And we also meet our tax revenue of 55 billion Ghana cedis. That would be 12.7%, of GDP. And the question is, he wants to raise it to 20%. How do you do that? Do you do that by introducing indirect taxes? Do you do that also by, or you have to do that by increasing income taxes. So those who earn money get to pay something to the state. Is that the way to go, or do we just ensure that by paying for any goods or service, you get to pay more to the state, as we're seeing in the e-levy? Well, these are issues that we'll talk about later on.
Yes, indeed. We'll get into it later. Let's not exhaust our thoughts on it right now. Let's do the news review. It's brought to us by the First Atlantic Bank, refreshingly different, IAS Ghana, absolutely positively the best on the market, and Compu Ghana, passion for technology. Now, I want us to do a quick recap of what the finance minister shared yesterday in that press statement, a few of the important points he made, and then we'll come to the papers.
The provision of the threshold demonstrates a caring government, the actions of a government that has since 2017 implemented some of the most innovative social intervention that this nation has ever seen. The e-levy is still 1.75. We are in serious consultations, keeping clear about the fiscal implications of what it will mean. Relating to the ACA energy transaction, we shall amend paragraphs 8 to 9 of the 2022 budget on the acquisition of a stake from ACA Energy and AGM Petroleum by GMPC to reflect the resolution of Parliament dated 6 July 2021 that the terms and conditions of the loan for the acquisition of the shares shall be brought to Parliament for consideration pursuant to Article 181 of the Constitution. In respect of the unfortunate tidal waves which rendered about 3,000 people homeless in Kita, Ketu South, and Anoga constituencies, we shall make the necessary budgetary allocations of at least 10 million Ghana cedis to complete the feasibility engineering studies for the coastal communities adversely affected. We'll broaden the scope of the study to consider a more comprehensive solution to protect Ghana's 540 kilometers of coastline, including the 149 kilometers between Aflawe and Prampram. Meanwhile, NADMO has responded to the humanitarian crisis created by the tidal waves on the coastline. We shall amend paragraphs 442 and 443 to take out reference to mineral royalties collateralization. It's important to note that any reference to Ejapa was for information purpose and as such was not reflected in the fiscal framework of the budget.
So that's the finance minister talking about what will change, what won't change, and the fact that he'll be consulting Parliament on it. Yeah.
Well, let's get into the papers. We'll come back. We'll come back to this. Come back to the finance minister's bit because there are lots to be said about it. But let's get to the Daily Graphic. Vaccinate against COVID-19. WHO rep appeals to the public. 6 buses of over AK-47 rifle deal and fight against corruption will succeed. That's according to Justice Domatre. And 2022 budget, government makes concessions. No consensus yet on e-levy. Finance Minister, back page, farmers to benefit from Côte d'Ivoire Ghana Cocoa Initiative, and 1.9 million bus terminal abandoned in Tamale.
You know, Apenyomakin talked about after the budget was presented for the second time on Tuesday and was passed. Apenyomakin made that disclosure that government was seriously considering reducing it from 1.75 to 1.5%. Yeah, and now we're told it's still 1.75. Interesting. But let's do the Ghanaian Times newspaper. On the front page, Dr. Opunin's counsel stopped from asking questions from rejected documents, and this is still from the ongoing trial. Transport operators suspend sit-down strike. That reminds me, what's the situation today, especially if you were stranded yesterday? We'll love to hear from you today. Hopefully everything is smooth now. 20 drivers arrested for obstruction during a sit-down strike. Yesterday, there were reports of some drivers who had decided to embark on the sit-down action, who were stopping others who were working. So these are the people who were arrested from an operation yesterday. And then the Finance Minister's update 2022 budget undergoes modification. Government to consult on e-levy, others with minority, public to accommodate concerns. On the back page of the paper, gas supply from a terrible gas to delay. And Ahlaflado residents decry bad nature of road, call for repairs. That's how the front back page of the Ghanaian Times newspaper looks like today.
And the final for this morning, GRA boss attains doctorate degree in what? Business leadership. That's here. Drivers hold country hostage again due to lack of effective public transport, and government modifies 2022 budget. Indigenous natural skincare products company making waves globally. That's comes with a photograph of Francisca Brenda Opoku, who is CEO of Solution Oasis Limited. Executive Secretary of Côte d'Ivoire Ghana Cocoa Initiative assumes office, and ADB promises more support for agribusinesses in 2022 and beyond.
Let's turn our attention to the Daily Guide newspaper on the front page. Bench warrant for NDC NP. That's the Jomoro Member of Parliament, Dorcas Afo. Tough details of that story. A bit of it's at least for you. It says a Secondary High Court Commercial Division presided over by.
Problem and Jomoro with the MPs.
So Justice Sedina Agbamava yesterday issued a bench warrant for the arrest of the Member of Parliament for Jomoro in the Western Region. The warrant followed her absence from the hearing of a contempt case against her on Monday morning. The contempt case was filed against her by one Joshua Emwa Kofi from Nuba Mpataba in the Jomoro constituency when the MP allegedly failed to appear before the registrar of the court to produce documents evidencing her renunciation of Ivorian citizenship as ordered by a Secondary High Court. So because she didn't show up, the case was scheduled to be heard at the Secondary Court yesterday. Because she didn't show up, the lawyer on the other side, that's Frank Davids, asked the court to issue the bench warrant for the arrest of the NP because, according to him, the fact that she didn't show up was a sign of disrespect to the court. And that's exactly what the judge did. But the case has been adjourned to Thursday, December 9. So we wait to see if we'll hear news of the fact that she's been arrested. That's the banner headline in the Daily Guide newspaper today.
Well, the Chronicle this morning, beloved, let's start from the Gospel according to St. John,
Hallelujah.
chapter 15,
Hallelujah.
verse 14. It says, "You are my friends if you do what I command." You are my friends if you do what I command.
I wonder where this is going.
Oforiatta modifies 2022 budget. 10 million set aside for Keta, other coastal towns.
Can I just say something
Please do.
related to that? You know, in June, I accompanied the Works and Housing Minister to Ketu South, and where he was hopeful that work would actually begin this year by December. But he told us that the issue was funding. They were trying to raise money locally. But what I actually want to say with regards the feasibility studies, the 10 million, what it's supposed to do. There was the acting director of hydrological services departments of that same ministry, Mr. Hubert Osei Wuswansa, who had earlier visited the community to assess the situation prior to the minister's visit and said there was an urgent need for the project, which would constitute the second phase to be undertaken. Our understanding really was that they had gone there to do a lot of works, and so it was down to the construction itself. So I wonder what this 10 million and this feasibility is supposed to be.
So I have some qualification in construction, and my professional understanding of feasibility study is to determine, first of all, whether what you want to do is feasible and also what it would take to get it done. Okay. It's a sea defense wall. There already exist sea defense walls in Keta. Are they working or not? That's your feasibility study. How much did it cost to make them? We are building sea defense walls right now in many parts of the country. There are companies that have been contracted to do so. So if you want to know how much it will cost, that's your answer. So what will the 10 million be spent on? What specifically will they do with the 10 million to determine whether or not the people of Keta need protection from the sea?
Okay, so, the finance minister talks about feasibility studies. So
And
out
engineering.
of 540 kilometers, that's our coastal stretch.
Yeah.
Now, the plan is to do feasibility study on 149 kilometers. So, it's not just about the Keta enclave. He's talking about up to Pram Pram.
We get that.
Okay.
So that's what they want to do. So they want to do feasibility on and some engineering studies on 149 kilometers, which would include these areas also. So that's the explanation he gave, because then the point is that these areas are already gone through a phase 1 construction. So why are you thinking of going to do feasibility? It says no. The money we're putting in is not just saying for this area. We're looking at the whole coast from Aplao to Pram Pram.
That's an interesting.
I appreciate that, but it still doesn't answer the question of
What will it
proper
be used?
construction as in phase 2 of what is needed. Do you get what I mean? If you box it and add it and say 10 million for feasibility and engineering studies when a project has already been started, then it's very confusing still.
So in essence, the government still has not budgeted for a sea defense wall in Ketu South. I mean, to finish the sea defense walls in Ketu South. Government has still not budgeted for that. What they have done instead is budgeted for a massive feasibility study for sea defense walls across the country. That's what they've done in response to calls from Ketu South in the Volta region for a sea defense wall. In response to those calls, government is going to do a feasibility study for the entire coast all the way up to Pram Pram as to whether or not they also need sea defense walls.
So the second thing from that same point, and it's a bit seems a bit disingenuous when the finance minister says that NADMO has responded to the humanitarian crisis created by the tidal waves on the Keta coastline, because we know that individuals and corporate Ghana, the banks came together to support the people. NADMO couldn't have done enough.
Okay, so court issues bench warrant for arrest of Jomoro MP. That's also here. Opuni did not author price quotation letter to Agricult. That's according to a witness. And that's it basically for the Chronicle. Let's get into our online news review.
It's brought to us by Zenith Bank in your best interest. Goyle, good energy and Enterprise Life. No matter how much you make for a living, Enterprise Life has a life. Solutions carefully crafted for you. Enterprise Life, your advantage.
Well, Gold wants you to know that this morning, if you get to their stations, a liter of petrol and diesel is selling at 6.70 pesos. So 6 cities, 70 pesos. And that's what Gold wants you to know. So you can pass by any Gold filling station and get your tank filled.
And give us the feedback.
Gold, and give us a feedback also. I've seen one, someone sent me a photograph that indicates that it's now 6.7 Ghana cities. So Goyle, good energy. Goyle, yeah, dear.
All right, then it's time for the BBC News. It's brought to us today by Fidelity Bank, Believe With Us, and Sethi Brothers.
Enterprise alive and see we are moving. We are cruising. Forward from Enterprise Life. Jam I want some more. Now we're done at the crowd. Dream big with us. You for dream big. Go on, dream big with us. Dream big with us.
Enterprise, your advantage.